Hello? Oh, okay. My mic was broken. Brilliant. Don't worry, you haven't missed anything. All right, so we're back up and online after a couple days away, and today we're going to go ahead and keep working on our avatar realism because the whole point here is that we want this character to move around in a super realistic manner on our portrait. And it's not difficult to do if you know the basics, but you have to know the basics, and we're going to keep doing them. Previously, what we did is we worked on the eyes, so now we have a relatively realistic eye motion. What we're going to do today is put in some eye constraints, and that will later allow us to drive some head motion. So let's go ahead and do that. The first thing we're going to do is when your eyelid opens up too much, we're going to go ahead and put a maximum amount of openness and a maximum amount of closedness. Okay, so public float max eyelid angle. Oh, we'll make it, I don't know, 15. We'll have to actually test that out. Well, we can actually test it out now. Let's go ahead and just hit play and see what our eyelid widening limit is. Looks like it's about 15. Maybe not even quite 15. 10. Of course, that'll be adjustable on a per character basis, so there's no big reason to get it right, but we'll go ahead and try and get it right anyway. So what we're going to want to do here is max out the amount of opened the eyelid can be. So here what we've got here in our eyelid. Fixate on the camera, and here is where we determine our eyelid. See? Quaternion, look rotation, look L, etc., etc., etc. So what we're going to want to do is determine what the angle is, and I don't know what the fastest way to do that is, but I have a suspicious feeling that angle is probably going to do the trick. So we're going to use quaternion.identity and our new look L. And we're just going to debug.log that, just to see what sort of values we get when we run that, because I don't know whether it's in radians or degrees. It's in degrees. And it looks like it's 180 off, which makes sense because we're actually starting with it backwards. That's interesting. I don't know whether or not it's always going to be 180 off because we're using look at, so that should work okay. And it's in degrees. So what we'll do is we will get our degrees. What we really want to do is instead of quaternion.identity, we want to use like the exact opposite of quaternion.identity, looking along that other axis. But I think the easiest way to do that might be to get an actual eyelid angle value out of it by just subtracting 180. There we go. And we'll just take a look and see whether these values make any sense. So we are now looking at an upwards value. So negative is upwards, it looks like. No, I guess maybe not. Well, let's go ahead and test it out easier by moving the camera up so that our eyes are above, and therefore will produce more openness. So it's negative. That's fine. We can live with those negative values. So we'll just go ahead and reverse the whole thing. And what we're going to say is if eyelid angle is greater than max eyelid angle, then we're going to lock it down, but we're also going to add in a head raise. For now, we're going to want our eyelid angle to be flattened down. So when we do this quaternion look rotation for our eyelids, we're going to want to put it in as an angle rather than what it is now. So look L equals quaternion dot angle axis that returns a quaternion. We're going to want to have the angle be 180 minus eyelid angle. Maybe I might have that backwards. Let's keep this clean by doing this. If negative eyelid angle is greater than max eyelid angle, and then this will be, no wait, that's not going to help any. Stupid idiot. Sorry, I haven't actually had to do much programming today, so my brain is not in a programming state of mind. And then, of course, our axis will be the right axis of the eyelid. So eyelid upper left dot right. And we'll go ahead and see whether that works by just taking a look and seeing whether or not the eyelids, look at that, they all screwed up. So this is definitely getting called, but it is royally trashing itself. I have forgotten how to specify a specific quaternion angle. What happens if we just make it max eyelid angle? See, that right. Oh, I know what the problem is. The problem is that right is not what I think it is. So we'll use this instead. The bones in the eyelid are all screwed up, and so we're going to use the bones of the body. Nope, that just made the problem screwier. This is interesting. Well, I think that might actually be pretty close to right. That's probably the right axis. But we definitely have an issue where we're not properly scaling it. All of this stuff has been... Oh, no, that's not going to work either. So we've got this look rotation, which determines where we're looking. But what we need to do is reduce the actual angle involved. What we can do is we can actually lerp it towards the default, but I don't believe that the default is identity. If I look at the eyelid bones, I don't think we're going to find that they are identity. No, not even close. So because of that, this is what's screwing us up. The default rotation is not identity. It is some other rotation. And if we wanted to lock it down as a certain amount of maximum deviation from forward angle, that's fine. But in the end, we're going to have to determine where we can look. Well, we can always do a very simple run over rise. So right now we're using transform.right as our real face, but I believe our real face is actually on our base object. It is. So we're going to want to not do that. Give me a moment. Public transform hid protected transform hid protected there. No, that's, I don't need an underscore. That's all I need. And then we get, and we'll go ahead and return our head bone. Now the reason for this is pretty simple. Why is that all erroring? The reason for this is pretty simple. We don't want to use the body's orientation. We want to use the head's orientation. It's capital B. That's fine. So every time we say transform, we need to say head. The problem is I don't think that the head bone is oriented correctly. Watch, if I do this, it's going to end up... trashing something. That doesn't appear to be trashed. No, that seems pretty good, actually. So our eyelids are not correct, though. And the problem is that we're not compressing against the proper bone. So if we look at the head bone here, which I believe this is the bone we're using, the rotation is identity, but it's local identity, not global identity. So when we take this head dot right, we're not actually looking at a bone that is properly pointed so that right makes sense. This might be complex. Well, one option is to fix the bone so that it does work. But that means that this is going to be hard for other people to use because head bones are almost never on straight. Ooh, this is a little bit more thorny than I thought. So another default is you can save the base rotation and do everything as if that rotation is always going to be off. You know, if that's our version of identity. If we do that, we would have to divide everything by certain values all the time, but it would at least give us world values that make sense. And another option is to switch this over to head.up just to see whether or not it works. Yeah, that's what I expect to see. If we move this down, yeah, that is our ordinary behavior. So just the way that the head bone is orientated in this particular universe, it's rotated so that right is apparently straight up out of the top of the head, which is super weird. Don't buy it. I think we're going to need to do a whole bunch of quaternion saving. So let's just go ahead and do that right up front. Protected quaternion default eyelid left, default eyelid right, and default eye left, default eye right, default neck, and default head. So here we're going to want to actually save all those defaults. Default eye left equals eye left dot rotation. Default eyelid left equals eyelid left dot rotation. And I should rename it because these are not just eyelids, these are eyelids upper. It is Wednesday, right? Yeah, okay. All right, that should do. And then we're just going to copy these for the right side. And then we'll go ahead and do default neck equals neck dot transform and default head equals head dot transform. So that will allow us to remember what the defaults are, and rather than trying to determine what our angle is off of identity, like this, what we're going to do is we're going to try and find our angle off of our eyelid, default eyelid upper left. And we won't need to minus 180. Let's go ahead and just say that here, debug.log eyelid angle. And we'll see what that has to say for itself. Oh, didn't like that. Oh, log. Cannot implicitly convert to quaternion. There we go. So we're seeing 20 degrees. That is correct. So those are valid values. We don't have to multiply by -1 or any of that stuff. That's just crap that I did because I didn't realize what was going on. We've got the proper eyelid angle, and what we want to do is maximize that so that when our eyelid angle is greater than our max eyelid angle, we lock it down. And we can do that by saying that look L equals quaternion dot. We can do it a couple of different ways. I think the easiest way to do it is to use the angle axis, where do I want to do this? I think we can do it like this, where we specify the max eyelid angle and our eyelid right. No. Eyelid upper left dot right. And we can also then multiply that by the default eyelid upper left. I think. I may be misunderstanding the order of operations again. All right, so what we've got here is a partial success. You can see that the eyelid is maxing out, but I don't believe that's how it's supposed to look. I think what we've got is some shearing on the left eye. So here you can see what it looks like when it's properly set up. Let me just take a close look at our eyeball here. So you can see that this doesn't have any shearing. It's a little bit rough in terms of the shader, but there's no shearing. As I lift it up, you can see how the eyelid snaps and it shears off to the side. So because it's got shearing involved, I think that our angles aren't right. Do I want to do the inverse? I don't think I do. This can't be right, though. We'll have to take a look here. It's exactly the same. Like, exactly the same. Wait, it's not sheared. Look at that. It's just... No, it is sheared. Okay. So how do I prevent it from shearing? Well, what I really want to do is rotate... I'll just do it the easy way. Duh. So we'll just go ahead and say that eyelid upper left dot rotate. Or we say look L else. There. Instead of putting it into L, what I'll do is I'll revert it back to the default. Default eyelid upper left and default eyelid upper right. And then we'll also then just do a rotate around. And we're going to rotate by, oh, there it is. Vector 3 dot right, comma, I guess we want to do it, yeah, we'll do it locally. And then we're going to want to make it max eyelid angle and space dot local self. And the same thing with the right side. But I have a feeling that vector 3 dot right is going to go in different directions on these two eyelids, which is why I hesitated, and I may want to make it relative to something else. Yeah, see, we still got the shearing there. So instead of space.self, it's going to be space.world. Now we're still doing just flat vector 3 dot right, so let's see whether or not that... So that's correct. So it turns out that our axis, our local axes are all screwed up, and therefore we should use head dot right, or head dot... That's a problem, it's not head dot right, it's head dot up. That's going to have to get fixed. Let's go ahead and put in some notes here. To do, fix the head transforms right up, etc., because it's all screwy. We'll come back through and fix that some other time. No, that's not right. So right now, there is no way for us to actually get a proper set of angles. Our head is all screwed up. If we look at the actual bone in Blender, we open up our 5 here. The head bone, it's pointed vertically, so it shouldn't be screwed up. We should be able... So this is called upper head. Is the upper head the one we're using? Upper head. Yeah, so that's got us straight. That is straight. It's just... That should be fine. We should be able to use head.right and so on and so forth. That should just work. Why don't we go ahead and use this just for a second here. Head dot look at, and we're going to use our eye target, and we're going to get the eye target's actual position rather than the position that the eyes are looking at, because the actual position the eyes are looking at is jumping around on purpose. But we'll go ahead and see whether or not the head actually tracks properly, because that'll tell us whether the head's on straight. And it is tracking properly, except for it is definitely all screwed up. Now, obviously, our vector3.up is not local space. Well, that's interesting. So it's pointed the right way, but it's on its side for some reason. This is interesting. Why is this the case? Well, that worked. So when we use the head properly, the head will work when we use head.up as our up vector. But when we use vector3.up as our up vector, it gets screwed up. That's a problem. Still, that did work. So the idea here is that head.up actually is up, and head.forward is actually forward. Which means we should be able to do this. Should be head.right. Why is this not working? So let's go ahead and put in some debug on this head here, which we can do by just copying the line renders out of the eye. So copy this, paste it on the head. Add in the new value, god damn it. There we are. Turn it on. So that is our head.z. This kind of forward line. And now we're going to go ahead and create another one of these guys, or just more points here, to go out and off to the side. Yeah, so if you can see that, X goes down the head. And the weird thing about this is that this is supposed to be on, it's on the head. I want it to be on the upper head, so just drop it. Fine. Copy component. Paste component. Remove component. There we are. So this is what we're looking at, and you can see that right is going down. It's going vertically down, which is like super wrong. So can I fix that by rotating? So here's the head, as you can see, and we have this such that that is correct, but this is right. For some reason, oh, it's along the x-axis, I guess. I could rotate this so that it is pointed sideways, and right is actually right, but I've never seen that. So I can't imagine why that would ever be the case. If we do any rolling, you can see it doesn't change what the x-axis is. It only changes the y and z axis. Oh, that's really weird. Well, if right is vertical, then right is vertical. For now, we'll just deal with it and use, instead of head.right, we'll use head.up. So that is the correct axis, I think? Maybe not. No, that's the correct axis. It's just not the correct amount. See how that works, and then boop. That's interesting. My guess is I've just got the sign backwards. Yeah, there we are. That's better. So here you can see that we have our max eyelid angle set up. And if I were to lower our max eyelid angle, then we would just reduce the amount of openness. See? So by doing this, we can adjust how large our eyelids are allowed to get before it's considered all the way open. Of course, now what the question is how are we going to move our head? Now there's a lot of variables into how you move your head, but in general, you're going to want to keep your angles under control. The eyes dart instantly, and the head moves way, 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 way slower. So what we're going to end up doing is having a head that trails after its eyes. And because of that, it should be easy enough. We just have to make sure to slurp the head, and it should work. But there's a maximum amount of if the eye is within a certain amount of angles, the head will stop rotating. You don't normally, especially up and down, you don't normally track 100%. Let's go ahead and try it on for size with some cheap techniques first. So we're going to go ahead and build a quaternion for our head. Quaternion head equals, or head rot equals quaternion dot look rotation, and we're going to go ahead and create ourselves a standard one, eye target dot transform as before dot position, and we're going to go ahead and track it back to minus, that is minus. And we can transform it back to the head position, or we could transform it back to the center of the eyes. The center of the eyes is probably a better option. Eye center. Of course, we don't have an eye center variable. We will go ahead and build one. Protected vector 3. Actually, I'm going to make that public vector 3. Eye center. Get return eye left dot position plus eye right dot position divided by 2. And once we have that, we need our upwards, and we're going to go ahead and remind ourselves that the head.up is not where we think it is. This is going to cause us problems in the future. So from here, what we're going to want to do is do a slurp. So head.transform, head.rotation equals quaternion.slurp. And then we'll just go ahead and give it the current head rotation. And we'll give it the new head rotation. And we'll give it some amount of time. So head speed times time.delta time. Don't have a head speed variable? That's something we can put in. Public float head speed equals 5, 10. So with that in mind, we'll see that the head more slowly tracks. If we grab this, we can watch the head track. Ooh, we got some... that's interesting. That has got to be a bug with our max eyelid situation. Yeah, because it's tracking off of the wrong variable, isn't it? So if we look down here at our eyelid angle, it's our default eyelid, but the rotation is stored as a global and not as a local. So that means that we are not tracking properly. So we want these all to be local rotations, which may bite us in the ass later, or now actually, because if we look, we've got some times when we set the rotation back here, it's going to have to set the local rotation back instead. That might be okay. So here we got the eyelid angle, quaternion angle, default eyelid upper left, and look L. But look L is a global quaternion, not a local quaternion. So I don't know what look L's actual local values are, but we should be able to tell our eyelids, eyelid upper left dot, we should be able to tell it to transform of a quaternion, inverse direction, position, vector. There's no transform quaternion. We could do a local to world matrix. We could set it. Oh, transform. No, there it is. No more quaternions. Well, we could set it. So we'll go ahead and use eyelid upper left. This seems like it is not a great idea, though. It's a super basic hack that I don't really like. Set the rotation so we can get the local version. This is a hack. Learn your damn quaternions, you lazy ass. Alright, so now when we bring this down, the eyelid remains good. See that? Lovely. Now this head, ooh, we had a pop there. Did you see that pop? Okay, so it's not working. There's something wrong with it. I might not have to even do the local quaternion nonsense though, or the local eyelid limit, because the head tracking should take care of it. Yeah, after all of that, I'm going to just go ahead and comment all this shit out. I don't need any more max eyelid angle. And we don't need any more of this nonsense here. this commented out code is not very good, and we don't need it due to head tracking. But our head tracking needs to be a little bit less aggressive, because basically we need to be okay with a certain amount of offset, especially upwards and downwards, especially upwards. We don't want to turn our head quite this far. So what we're going to do is we're just going to flat lerp, or flat slurp. So head rotation here, we're going to just change it so that head rot equals quaternion dot slurp. Actually, we can put this inside, can't we? Well, this is not a local rotation situation. Basically, what I want to do is I want to make sure that we don't get too far from our local rotation origins. But in order to do that, I have to have this look rotation as a local value. I can do that by specifying these coordinates in local positions. Local head look vector equals, and I can just go ahead and do this. And then I can say head dot transform or inverse transform, I can't remember which, a local head look vector. And then here I can say local head look vector, and then I can also do a local rotation, like so. And let's see whether or not I got that right. Well, it's looking the right way-ish, but it's, oh, here it is. There we are. So you can see that now I'm specifying it as a local angle. So I should have a much easier time working with it. And so what we'll do is we will just bring this down somewhat. We'll automatically make this slurp twice. Once by the delta time and the other one by just a flat fiat number. Quaternion dot slurp default head, or we'll go ahead and do it, head rot, comma, default head, comma, 0.2f. And that means that we'll never be too far off of our base. This doesn't take into account the neck. We might want to do something with that later, I don't know. But just for controlling the head, it should work okay. So you can see that it never tracks 100%, and it gives us a little bit of eye motion that will serve us well. Later on, we're going to do a lot of head orientation tricks, but you can see that even now already, tracking this object no longer feels like it is ridiculously overexpressive. She'll always be looking left at the object, and that means that she'll never, it's not like she's turning her head 100%. In addition, the head tracking is substantially slower than the eye motion, which allows us to get a good eye motion that precedes the head motion. Now the only thing left for us to do is to make the head motion ease in and out properly. Or at least ease in. Heading, you know, the head easing out isn't nearly as important, because the slurp will take care of that. But right at the beginning, the slurp is at its strongest. So what we need to do is we need to have a head speed that we actually keep track of. Protected float current head speed equals 0. So what we'll do is here, we're going to use this head speed times current head speed. And then we're going to go ahead and say if current head speed is less than 1, current head speed plus equals time.delta time times head speed. Which, yes, does end up using delta time twice. That should be okay, though. And then we'll just say if current head speed is greater than 1, current head speed equals 1. So that should give us a little bit of slowness to our initial head movements, but it doesn't look like it's slow enough. So if we were to... Well, that actually doesn't feel too bad. I'd like to slow it down a little bit more, though. Maybe just the problem here is the head speed is too high. Let's go ahead and bring the head speed down. It's at 10. Let's bring it down to 2 and see what happens. Yeah, to be honest, that doesn't seem too bad. Two is too low. It looks like something more moderate would be good, like 5. And then what we'll do is we'll make the head speed come up slower. Well, one of the issues is we're not bringing it back down, are we? So what we're going to do is, that is probably the big issue. I bet that's the only issue. I bet that's not necessary. What we're going to do is, if the head look vector is greater than a certain angle, we're going to adjust the head speed up. Otherwise, we'll adjust it down. So we're going to go ahead and say float head rotation angle equals head rot dot, quaternion dot angle head rot, comma, default head. No, not default head, current head. Head.local rotation. There you are. Now what that'll do is it'll give us the angle between the head rotation we want and the head rotation we've got. So here we'll say if head rotation angle of math.abs, mathf.abs, head rotation angle is greater than, I don't know, 3. Do this. Else current head speed times equals 0.95f. Doesn't really matter. Anything to reduce it. It doesn't have to be smart. So now we should actually have it reduce the head speed once you're done looking at something. Now the problem with this is that it's not going to work properly with our slurping here. So we're going to have to grab this slurp, head rot, and bring it outside and put it up here in order to get the proper vector that we're actually going to try and use. Otherwise, it's going to end up always off. So that should be a little bit better. Yeah, there we are. That's what I want to see. I don't know if you guys can even see the difference there. Yeah, that feels much more realistic. I like it. All right, so that is pretty solid. I feel like that is probably pretty close to good. There are a couple of details that I'm not sold on yet. One of those details is the neck. You can see that right now I'm moving the head and not the neck. Now, I'm not sold on that. The whole head-neck thing is artificial. There's not really a head-neck bone joint thing going on in the actual body. It's all the spine. Goes up into the neck. So really we'd be talking about some specific vertebrae that would each take part of the load here. And instead I'm just twisting the head bone around. Now the reason that could cause us some issues is that as we start to turn, we don't get any strong neck deformation in our head, or in our mesh. Instead what we've got is a head that kind of just spins like a top. Now how that actually works in terms of how it looks, it really does vary depending on the quality of the mesh. That's cute. So we'll have to think about the best way to handle this in the long run. That wouldn't look quite so bad if the eyelashes were actually properly working. I just kind of stuck them on. Well, that would look pretty bad. We may need the maximum eyelid thing. For now, it's working fine, though. We're not going to worry about it too much more. That'll work. Now, the real version of this in like an adventure game or something, the characters would look away. They would not stare fixedly at something. But in this game, it's going to make more sense for our characters to stare with a kind of very, very fixed look. And the reason for that is pretty simple. We're going to be seeing these characters mostly as zoomed-in portraits and not as free-roaming 3D, worlds. You can go into the ship and, try and get in close to these characters, but generally speaking, if you're looking at them in a world view, they're going to be pretty small, and it's going to be their body language more than anything else that you're going to need to see. The portrait close-up is going to be fine if it stares fixedly, because it's a portrait, and that's going to be fine. So, to be honest, this is basically done in terms of how it's going to look in our game. We don't have to worry about any of the more annoying details that we might have to worry about in an adventure game or an RPG, because we're not going to be using these characters in the same way. Yeah, I think I can call this ready. The things we have to do now are mostly in the form of polishing up some of the details, especially the body morphs. I can leave the body morphs to later if I really want to and just use face morphs, because the face is what we'll see in the portrait. Either way, the face needs work too. We're going to need to make sure we have expressions and stuff like that built in. We don't really have them ready yet. I think I like it a lot. I think this is going to work out fine. You folks will have to let me know what you guys think. And normally, what she's looking at probably won't be the camera. It might be when you've selected her, but she'll normally probably be looking like off-screen right like this. Well, I don't think anyone was watching today, and I only ran for 45 minutes so far. I should probably continue on. I got distracted for quite a while over the course of the past week. I played a lot of Stellaris. I analyzed the hell out of Stellaris. I made that video, the 2-hour-long or 1-hour-long video. It was 3 hours long when I started. And I also got a chunk of the way into a dialogue game, a very, very simple game about how to write dialogue in games. So I haven't really gotten any work done on this much recently, and I probably should work some more on it. On the other hand, there are a lot of other things I want to do, and nobody's watching. All right, well, if you are watching and you want me to continue, now would be a good time to chime in. Otherwise, I'll come back on Saturday and continue from here, and we will be cementing the exact process by which the face is generated. Now, I don't have the details in mind, which is why I'm not interested in doing it now. Frankly, I thought this was going to take way longer. Turned out to be quite fast and easy, even with all the mistakes I made and the strange little side avenues I took. So in the end, I'm not actually ready to work on the face any further than this. It'll have to wait a little bit longer. Also, I need to fix the eyelashes. They're really bad. Well, we will go ahead and take some screenshots, post them to Twitter, and end it here. Let's go ahead and take some screens. That'll do. Click on this, we get the sub view there. Let's get a better angle so that we can really see that the head has turned. No, I guess it was better when it was in front. So picky about your stupid screenshots. No one's going to see. I am an artiste of screenshots. Just pop on over. Oh, let's go ahead and delete me from YouTube here. And delete that. Tweet now does full head tracking and eye movement with saccades and stuff. Feels pretty realistic within the constraints of my system, my game. Game dev, paste. Let's go ahead and adjust her face some. Do I have the faces on the other one, isn't it? I don't have it on this one. Yeah. So I have to manually alter these bones here. Let's go ahead and change some of these bones for a funny look. Bring down the eye scale here. And head scale up. We'll just go ahead and also bring that forward. And where's our nose? Nasal bridge, here it is. And we'll just keep adjusting it for a little while until it looks like something different, just so that I can show you that there's a lot of different faces involved here. Got some jowls we can scale. Yep. We got some lips, but they're all a little bit scattered at the moment. That's fine though. We'll go ahead and scale them down a little bit here. Where are our other lips? Take our nose and let's shrink it like this. And then we'll take that last nasal bridge and sleeping it. Shrimp. And let's scale our eyes up this time. And we'll go ahead and take those cheeks and scale them down. Now she looks a little terrifying. Well, that's good enough. Paste. All right. I'll see you guys on Saturday if anybody wants to come watch. Otherwise, I'll do it on my own. Have a good one. Oh, where's my streaming? There it is. Stop.